Hello, dear friends. This is 15 days of 15 cases of reincarnation. Exactly. 15 cases of past lives. Based on the book by Amália Domingo Soler, originally written in Spanish, Hechos que Prueban, then later translated into Portuguese, Reencarnação e Vida, and then Luis Rivas translated a shorter version. He chose 15 cases of his preference, and he published in a book 15 casos de 15 vidas passadas. And the book is being translated with the efforts of Carlos Diaz, Shane Martin, and our collaboration. And we are streaming them each and every day for you. Enjoy. You may be asking, why are we studying these cases? For some people, it may sound like curiosity. Is it curiosity? No. Amália Domingo Soler, on chapter 5, which is the chapter we're going to study today, she mentions that first and foremost, she's studying about the human mind. You know, and we all should be understanding and willing to understand more how our minds function. The more we know about it, the better we'll live. And Amália Domingo Soler was very diligent in that regard. She consulted the spirits and asked permission to know whether or not we could know more about who we are by getting to know of the cases she came across. It is valid because the same law that applies to them applies to us. It's the law of reincarnation, the law of cause and effect. You and I are inevitably under this law. We don't know yet what to do with it. Like children, we know if we step on a chair, we may fall, and yet oftentimes we do it and we fall and we cry and then we say, oh well, I'm gonna try it again. But we need to try it with greater wisdom. And these cases, they bring to us nuances of wisdom that can prevent us from incurring in mistakes again, hurting ourselves again, and hurting others again, right? Yes. And to help us tonight, we have our dear friend Carol Correa here with us. She is here also because these cases are very intense, but they are life. And we need help, and teamworking is the best way to live, isn't it? I love to teamwork, don't you? And Carol does too, right, Carol?
Yes, right. Hello, eternal friends.
All right, Carol. We count on your support and your comments to break down the understanding of this case. We have to be very diligent, right? And you too. And we count on all of you too, right? Hi, Danny. Hi, Erica. Yes, thank you for being there. Soraya, how are you, Soraya? Beautiful Shane Martin, how are you? Thank you for joining us and for helping us in this journey. Danny and Erica. Yes, how are you? Beautiful sunshine, how are you? So beautiful soul, how are you? And we have Leia Severo, our beautiful Leia, mother, grandmother, great friend. Thank you, Andrea Torres. How are you? Enjoying? Yes, I know we're a day away from, Happy Mother's Day to everyone. And also to the ones who don't have children or, they are mothers in some way. Like Carol Correa. She's already a mother because she is nursing all the kids and teens. It's true motherhood, right? Yes. and she's here with us in this beautiful day of Mother's Day. And to all of you too, right? Gustavo, stay strong, my friend. We have here Adilson, Karina, Adilson, dear friend, Tia Hebe, abraço para a senhora, abraço para Dona Hélia, Feliz Dia das Mães, okay? Forgive me, friends, but this is also family, and we are speaking in Portuguese. You know, just so we have that feeling of closeness, togetherness, right? Rudy, enjoying the wonderful rain? Yes, Rudy, especially because you are me. I saw your name somewhere there. Am I right? Am I right? Saw you there. And many other friends. And as I always mention, if you are listening to this or watching this after hours, on another day, we send you a hug too. Yes, we do. Because feel yourself as part of this, the 11th hour Spiritist Center. This is our intercontinental Spiritist Center, a center for many people who don't have one. Isn't it good, the feeling of community? Don't you feel we progress faster, right, Carol?
Right.
When we're together forever, you stay in my heart and I will love you. Yes, boost your love, boost your feelings. As Haroldo Druta Diaz always reminds us, remember of Abigail's advice to Saul of Tarsus, love above all things. Don't be afraid. Oh, but Vanessa, people are this. Love them. That's the gift you can give to them. They say, I don't care about you. I love you. I don't want to be with you. I love you. And you can be over there. I despise you, but I love you. And that's exactly what Amalia Domingo Soler is going to teach us today. Love. She wraps up the chapter talking about love. And I'm saying this because this chapter is intense. Maria Aparecida Antunes. It's not raining in Brazil, but it's raining love. Okay? Justina Martyr. Beautiful mother too. Welcome, welcome. Are you ready for the case today? The case today is... I'm like, really? Can we have a happy ending? But at the end of the day, there's always a happy ending because there's progress. Right, Shailton? The case today is about the exploitation of a child. Does it happen in the world nowadays? A lot. More than we imagine. Humanity is yet, yes, it's sad, Danny, and we're yet to be just. We're yet to be caring and loving like Jesus taught us. He's our personal trainer of the soul. He's our guide and model, and he taught us this kindness that is yet to be practiced by us. We need to coach ourselves every day. The school of kindness. Trajano, welcome, welcome. So we need to know what to do. How do we proceed in that regard? But listen to this case. Stay there. Listen to this. Amalia Domingo Soler talks about the criminal exploitation. If there is any other type of exploitation, every exploitation is criminal, but this one is really like a double charge on it. For many years, she says, in France, several villages and little cities in France, a group of gypsies lived by showing a rare phenomenon. Right, read it. There was a child that they claimed to be a wild boy who used to live in a box of glass. Yes. And they said that he had no legs. And then he spoke of a strange language, one that was probably related to the barbarians, as if he were an animal in a cage. But the boy was not a monster. And he didn't speak French because he was born in Galicia in Spain. That's why he couldn't speak the language of the villages in France. The poor boy was a victim of the exploitation of gypsies. And what happened actually was that these gypsies were traveling once through Galicia in Spain, and they saw this 6-year-old boy, and they deceived the parents who were poor, and they said, "We're going to teach you a few things to your child for a year, and we bring him back. When we bring him back, we'll give you a lot of money for it." And the parents believed them. Pause here. Hello, Dr. Roberta Langerber. I owe so much to you, Roberta. Big kiss to you. Miss you. Now, how can parents actually do what they did to this boy? How? Do you think they really love this boy? You're going to understand why some families can be that careless. Well, this boy actually started traveling with the gypsies, and at the beginning he was treated like a king. But through the terrible trips, can you imagine, in trips were happening with people like the gypsy who didn't have much to actually provide in terms of comfort. So those long trips on a mule actually created some form of impairment on the legs of this little boy. And to the point that one day he could barely walk. He could barely walk. So then the gypsies thought, you know what, if he can't walk, let's make his legs like totally impaired. So they tied the legs and attached the legs to the bottom of a box. No, that's really cruelty. 10 years. 10 years in this torture. 10 years. He didn't know a word of French. So they moved from Galicia to France. The boy couldn't speak French, so he was like a slave, a prisoner of the gypsies. And because they thought, you know, since he can't walk, we better make him totally impaired and use him for a purpose. So for 10 years, can you imagine? From 6 to 16 years of age, he spent as an animal in a cage. He couldn't speak to people. He couldn't tell them what was going on. They imprisoned them and used them as like a show, for a show. But one day after 10 years, any brain can learn, huh? And that's when he told authorities that he was exploited, and that was the end of his martyrdom. He was set free. He was brought into a hospital in Bordeaux, and they were taking care of him. Dr. Jaime Vera was taking care of the recovery of the boy. Amália Domingo Soler, when she heard about the story, though the report, you know, then the day she actually asked the spirits about the reflection, she said, you know, kept thinking about the story of it all. And I thought, she says, that's the beauty of Amália Domingo Soler. She teaches us this beautiful compassion, but this importance of communicating with the spirits for high purposes. She was not curious. So much so that she had the trouble of writing it. Do you remember she was blind, basically? But she wrote the book. In magazine, the Spiritist magazine, issue 30th, you can read about it. Just go to the spiritistmagazine.com or the app, read it. That's when we published, to know more about Amália Domingos Soler. And she says, whomever practices a crime not only falls into an abyss, but other people also fall into the abyss. So she talks about the fact that when we make a mistake, we push many people into that abyss. Okay? So she said, to continue my studies under my spirit guide about the mediumistic works, in the mediumistic works about this unhappy boy. And here's the revelation. Ready? Because the breakdown, I know it's a sad story, but true. How many people on the earth are experiencing this as we speak? And children experiencing cruelty at the hands of their own parents, at the hands of relatives. Do you know how to use your authority well? You know why I'm asking this? Because we often read the book Saul of Tarsus about Paul and Stephen, and we think, oh, Saul was abusing his authority. We look at President Trump, we look at the North Korean representative, we look at the Russian President Putin, and we think, oh, those guys. We look at the Brazilian politicians and we say, or the Venezuelan politicians say, they are abusing their authority. Yes, and don't we? Authority. But have you ever asked your children how they feel when you make a decision? Have you ever asked them? Do you ask them or not? So we really need to care, because when people are dictators, they can be dictators, despots in their own home, tyrants. I'm your mom, I'm your dad, am I telling you, and I don't care how you feel? Yes, so we need to be very careful about this. We need to be very diligent and know and ask ourselves whether or not we're abusing our own authority in the different hats we use during our lives. As a person who is working in any position of authority, we need to ask ourselves, right? The spirit guide of Amália Domingos Soler discloses, by the fruit you know the tree. In the same way, through the existence each being, you know the history of the person. This boy was the victim of the ambition of his exploiters, but in a previous life he was a sage without a heart. Listen to some comments by Carol and...
Dear friends, as we discussed yesterday, we are here in this life to develop both of our wings. Which wings? The wings of love and wisdom. The spirit that we are looking at today, as we look at his history as a millenary spirit, we learn that though he was a victim of cruelty, and cruelty shall never be acceptable in the eyes of God or any of us, we know that every cause has its root, and the root in this case was in the lack of wisdom. How many times, dear friends, we see ourselves as great intellectuals, as one who are deserving of attention? How many times some of us may think about our titles, and we wish to be recognized, and we wish our voice to be heard, but we don't think about the impact that our presence may have upon others. We may act like the sage that knew that he was very wise, but where is the heart in this picture? Are we able to balance the mind and the heart? Like our master, guide, and model has told us. And in the book Good News, we have the exact report of that. There was a doctor of the law at his time named Nicodemus. And Nicodemus was very, very intelligent and very wise. Just like the case we are studying today, he was also considered to be a sage, very respectable, very intelligent, very articulate. He had a presence, and he really was on top of the hierarchy of his society, much like this gentleman, this spirit that we're looking at today. But he forgot to accept the fact that as an immortal spirit, he also was blessed with a heart. So in his meeting with our Master Jesus, Nicodemus directly tells Jesus, I really wish to understand the laws. I know you are the Messiah. I recognize in you our master and model, but I still don't understand how to follow you. Jesus' answer was very direct, wise, loving, and simple. He simply said, Nicodemus, you forgot to feel the scriptures. So the question that Amalia Soler asked to the mentors is, was the Spirit ever able to open his heart? At times we may think about the fact that when we are facing a problem, we shall find a solution through our intellect, and we may spend hours and hours, days, months, years thinking about what to do. But did we, dear friends, stop to think that the answer may and shall lie in the realms of our hearts? Let us go back to our dear Vanessa here and see what the heart of that sage has to reveal to us.
Thank you, Carol. This is teamwork effort. Yes, friends. Teamwork effort. Thank you, Carol. So who was that boy in a previous life? A sage without a heart. He was a scientist, a physician. And according to what the spirits say here, he would do experiments. His name was Ascanio, and he would do experiments in several lives. He was a scientist who did experiments using humans, just like the other story we heard the other day. He wanted to know how much human intelligence depended on the body to work itself out. And for that reason, his protocols were quite cruel. He would, for example, he had lots of money, great fortune, many slaves, and in the children of the slaves who had a particular, like a prominent intelligence, he would start studying them through cruel experiments, such as, for example, amputating the legs, okay, and torturing them, creating true wounds to see how much their intelligence could work itself out through works of painting, writing, etc., singing, in spite of the fact that their physical bodies were impaired somewhat. So he dedicated great attention to children who had greater intellect. He educated children, he had control groups, and he would treat them, in the same way, but much like animals, And he was not cruel to the point of being sadistic, the spirit said, but he didn't care much about their anguishes and pains. So he heard them cry, etc., and he was like, okay. He didn't feel pleasure on it, but on the same token, he had no compassion. Okay? And deep inside, said the spirit, Ascanio was searching for life independent of the body, the life of the spirit. At that time, people didn't used to say that if you have a healthy mind, you have a healthy body, but basically that's exactly what his hypothesis was aiming at, understanding that. And he searched for people who were quite intelligent and would function without the body. So he would smash the bodies of children. He would apply remedies and tortures to see whether or not they would function in the same way. True experiments that were quite cruel. He would mutilate poor slaves, yes, to see if they could sing better. Just like, you know, some people think that by blinding some birds, they can sing better. And that was his mentality as well. So the spirit guide of Amália Domingo Soler quotes Aristotle, the great Greek philosopher, who used to say that the slaves were quite like a living property in the hands of their owners. And Ascanio worked like that. He thought the slaves were his. So he was a sage without a heart. He didn't cherish the evil itself, but he caused great pain to the people whom he was testing, his subjects. And what is interesting here for us is this. Many people think, well, this happened to this person because in a previous life, thinking that people are doomed to suffering when they incarnate. And that's not true. That's not true. The spirit guide of Amália Domingo Soler reveals to us that the following. Do not think that Ascanio, that sage, was a scientist, cruel scientist without a heart. He incarnated obliged to suffer the consequences of his acts. And don't think that his persecutors were less guilty. As I have said many times, the role of a persecutor is never needed to be represented. So there is no such thing like, in the next life, this person is going to suffer this and that person is going to kill this one. That doesn't exist. God, the good spirits, never program tragedies. We have a magnet in our own spiritual body. But people are free. They are free. Sometimes people have to go through difficulties. And if people in their lives do not impose that constriction, naturally they are going to fall into an accident that is not human-made. And they are going to experience that constriction, that expiation. So we better allow the natural laws to take care of itself than to really participate feeling like I have to be the one making justice with my own hands. I'm going to help God here. Some people think like this. They have guns. We live in the state of Virginia, and many people, unfortunately, have guns in the United States as well, thinking like this. I will help God making justice whenever needed. I'm going to kill this person who is a criminal, who is not behaving well, etc. But I'm so sorry to say, we're not gods. And God doesn't need us to become criminals to give him anything. No, we don't. That's a little bit or a lot barbaric. To say the truth, to tell the truth, that mentality is quite mosaic. And I don't say this about Moses, but at Moses' time. That's how people thought. Much more than 2,500 years ago. People thought that way. Do we think that way too? Do we, how is our behavior before criminals? And I'm not talking about criminals that are not involved in our lives. We're talking about people who commit infractions in their lives that we think are infractions, because sometimes we ourselves sentence people not even knowing what the reality is, and we feel like not even helping them or even complicating their lives, saying, you know what, this person is going to suffer for doing this, and we don't even know the story on the behind the scenes. Just like Peter. If you were here with us on the 12 encounters with the divine friend, you remember the true account of Peter when he was so judgmental of that woman who was about to be stoned. And then later he got to know she was not actually culpable of anything. And the person who actually created a complication for her was almost a relative of his. So how many of us judge others, stone others, create badmouth others, thinking we're doing a favor to humanity by stoning socially somebody, and we don't even know the behind the scenes of their lives, right? How many of us? Many. We hope Spiritism can turn it all to the other side. Make us think that I am no judge. I don't know the truth. As Jesus said to Peter, you don't know. Don't judge. And never, ever, ever make justice with your hands. No, I'm not talking about killing the body. We're talking about now killing the image of a person, the reputation of a person, which is very sad. Now, in this case, the Spirit talks about people who have a family, and sometimes being born amongst those who were our enemies can cause exactly what happened here. The family of Ascanio, giving him easily to the hands of unknown people, like many parents nowadays. I'd sometimes really doubt if they love their children, because they leave their children with unknown people. Because they have to work. Because they want to have a parent night out. And they don't even know the babysitters. They don't know the teachers, the daycare people. And then later, when we hear about sexual abuse or abuses of any sort, we're shocked. But we are contributing with it because we give our children to the hands of people we don't know. We don't. And Leon Denis is clear in that regard in the book After Death. He says we should never, ever allow our children to be cared for by other people unless it's extremely necessary. And living in a bigger house other than in a smaller one is not a justification. I know it's a difficult conversation, but we're coming to a time on the earth when we need to ask why people are having children. Because if you're going to have children and like a hot potato giving it to the care of others, we should think twice. That's exactly what the Spirit is saying here. That many people have a family and it's a true calamity. Because we may be born amongst those whom we hurt, and now as parents they can hurt us, like the parents of this little boy, giving him away to people he didn't know just for money. Bottom line, they didn't love the kid. So, God, in His infinite justice, could not create beings to be hatred, to be hating people. His laws are immutable and eternal. But men and women play with divine laws, like children play with their toys. And He says more. I'm going to repeat 400 times. You shall be compassionate towards the aggressors and the victims. Compassion for the aggressors because they are preparing themselves for their expiation tomorrow. And compassion for the victims because yesterday they were bad sowers who are now reaping the tears that they sowed yesterday. In this way, Ascanio was this person who didn't know have compassion. You see the lack of love. And his victims, as much as the persecutors, they need love and compassion. That's how the spirit guide of Amália Domingo Soler ends, and Amália adds. She says, I love to contemplate God in nature, and I don't fear God's wrath, because I trust His mercy. God is just, immutable, eternal, superior above all pieties and all compassions. God doesn't need to be tolerant because God is just. The law of love must be fulfilled. And when we don't fulfill God's law, and the day we fulfill God's law, that's going to be a day of universal happiness. And everybody's going to be singing, oh, happy day. That's the happy day when we comply with God's laws. Oh, happy day when we comply with God's laws. Oh, happy day. You can sing too. I can almost hear like, oh, happy day when we fulfill God's law. Kardec asked this question to the spirits in the Spirit's book. Yes, why the rush if we're all going to progress? And they said, the sooner you fulfill God's will, the sooner you'll be happy. I want to be happy. Do you? Because I'm happy. Na, 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 na. That's how we're going to sing one day. Not yet. Yes, nowadays we're joyful. Why? Because we have hope and we have courage. We have hope and courage. Courage not to face anybody, but to face ourselves. Look at yourself in the mirror or in your own screen and see yourself every day and say, I love myself. I now know what to do. I love myself. I love myself because I'm a child of God. I forgive myself. Tell yourself, I forgive myself. I love myself. We need to do more affirmations. Your spiritual brain, my spiritual brain, needs new programming. The muscles of the physical body need that you go to, not exactly to the gym, but you work out. It can be in your home. It can be in the streets. It can be in a gym, wherever it is. But the muscles of the soul also need consistent, persistent, new programming. How do you do it? Affirmations. For many lives, we have been telling ourselves, I'm guilty. I'm not a good person. Look at what I've done. Da-da-dee-da-da-da. This life, delete that program. Oh, but Vanessa, what I've done? God said, begin anew. No, but look what I've done. Begin anew. Begin anew. We don't need religion. We need religiousness. We don't need labels. We need true connection with God, which doesn't necessarily is found in a temple of stone, but in the temple of the hearts. So tell yourself every day, like push-ups. You know, push-ups of the soul. Let's go. I love myself. It's hard. Again, I love myself. Don't believe it. Again, I love myself. And then after a few days, you start seeing the six-pack. Yeah? And you're like, it works. Yeah, remember. I was at the beach the other day. And I started meditating, doing these affirmations, seated by the sand, by the beach, looking at the calm waters of the sea. And I was telling myself, closing my eyes, and you can do it too. I love and approve of myself. I'm a child of God. I forgive myself. I forgive everyone in my life. And I kept repeating. Suddenly, Virginia came, and she doesn't know because I wasn't saying it out loud. I was quiet. I was like a mummy, like meditating. For less than a few minutes, she came, started hugging me and saying, Mom, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, man, this really works. Because we're vibrating it. These are not mere affirmations. You are opening the software of love. So tell yourself constantly, and tell others too, I love you. It takes effort. I love you. If you can't say, smile. Send them thoughts of appreciation. Tell them, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. If you can't say it, think, feel it, visualize it. We need to change the programming. It's muscles. I know we love to work out or not. But that's the push-up of the soul. I love myself. It hurts. I love myself. And I love the obsessors too. Yes, that's exactly what the spirit guide was saying. Love for criminals. Who are we? We are former criminals too. Previous lives. And then, what happens next? Tell me, friends. What happens next? We start vibrating. Creating a new programming. We will feel more prone to do the good. We'll feel more encouraged to look at people and criticize less, demand less. And look at them and say, come on. We will just say, come on. Open the doors of your heart. Yeah, open your heart and be happy. That's the title of Joana de Angelis' book, through Divaldo Franco. Open your heart and be happy. It's inevitable. That's the pathway. Right, Michelle? Right, Andrea Torres, Sol. Yes, Karina, Caroline, Edinalda. Yes, friends, that's exactly what we need. Want to practice more? This boy was facing his reality. But you know, Kardec asked the spirits, are certain expiations inevitable? No. If you do the good. If you do the good. And the law of God visits you during the action. That movement of love vibrates and mathematically erases. Exactly. Covers the multitude of sins that Jesus said. And then we come to terms with that debt. Is that how it is? Yes, it is. That's the law of life. So how about right now saying to ourselves, visualize it, seeking the good. Let's seek the good right now. As if you can. And visualize yourself healthy. You want to encounter health of the mind and the body and spirit. Visualize yourself healthy, smiling, conciliating, reconcile with yourself and the world, and telling yourself, I am a child of God. I've reincarnated to learn to do good. I love myself. And I love others too. This love comes from God, through me, without obstacles. Breathe in and out, feeling your integration, mind, spirit, mind, bodies. Breathing in, you breathe in love. Breathing out, you emanate acceptance and love. Breathing in, you feel approved. You're a child of God. Breathing out, you emanate this loving attitude. Breathing in and out and feeling the joy of living. Open your eyes. Open your eyes and rejoice. Rejoice. All of us here today have had a mother once in this life and in all the lives we have lived. Through the doorway of motherhood, we're here. No matter if your mother was a good mother or not so good, if she's incarnated or discarnated, raise your thought and reconcile with your own roots and tell her from the bottom of your heart, I love you, Mom. I appreciate your efforts. Wherever you are, receive my hug of gratitude. That's how we end our program today, in true appreciation for the gift of life. Thanking our moms because no matter what they went through, they allowed us to come true. And here we are. Thank you, friends. And until tomorrow, 15 cases of past lives.